Torah isn't just laws and stories. It's a spotlight pointing to Jesus. Genesis, the promised seed. Exodus, the Passover lamb. Leviticus, the high priest. Numbers, the living water. Deuteronomy, the prophet greater than Moses. From the beginning to the end, the Torah whispers Jesus in the Torah.
Shalom, everybody. Welcome to this week's Journey Through Torah. This week we're in Parsha Mattot, Numbers chapters 30 to 32. Oftentimes this Parsha is read in conjunction with the one after it, finishing out the book. So they do go together, but for right now we're going to focus on Parsha Mattot, which means tribes. Mattot is a plural of Mate, which means a tribe. Also, the word for tribe can also mean like a leader. Okay, so in this Parsha, we start off being addressed, Moshe is rather addressing the leaders among the tribes, and there's some things that are going on here. Big emphasis we have here is do what you say. If a person makes a vow, he has to follow through with it. Now, the interesting thing we find out is that nowhere in the Torah does it tell you you have to make a vow, but it does put regulations on if you do. So the importance here is keep your word. No matter what that looks into, keep your word. Yeshua in John 15:13 says, no one has a greater love than this, that a man lay down his life for his friends. Well, how is that relevant to the idea of vows? Because you keep your word. You build up one another. You look after one another. All right. If you make a commitment, you do it. You follow through on that. And you say the things that you mean. And because the things that you say, people will rely on you for that. If you say you're going to do something or you say you can't do something, people will take you at that word. So you have to make sure that the words that you're saying, they're true and you actually follow through on it. There are some things where you make a commitment. Let's say you want to help somebody move. You say, sure, I'll be there. I'll help you move. Moving day comes and show. Now you just put your friend in a situation where now they have to get someone else at last minute, and it's just a horrible thing. So again, the idea is people need to trust you. People need to know when you say something, you're going to follow through with it, because that's a reflection on the God that we serve. He tells us something and he does it. Right? He's not telling us something. It's not empty promises. It's not just failing to follow through. No, if he says something, he's going to do it. So same thing for here. We have to be careful of the things that we say, the things that we do, and we need to try to use the things that we make commitments to and the things that we say to build up one another, right? To help make sure each other is working together and learning life together and just living our lives in a way that do glorify the Father. Yeshua addressed this in Matthew 5:33 to 37. He says, you have heard it said that those of old, you shall not swear falsely, but shall carry out your oaths to Adonai. This is true. Okay. And Yeshua is not saying that this is irrelevant. Okay. What he actually is doing, if you go through and you read Matthew chapter 5, he's saying, you've heard it said this, and then he actually holds us to a higher standard than what was written. Okay. So he's not doing away with what was written. He's actually showing the intent of the heart behind it. And so where he says, you shall not swear falsely, but carry out your oaths to Adonai, we see that couple examples in Exodus 20 verse 7, Leviticus 19:12, Numbers chapter 30 verses 3 through 15, Deuteronomy 5:11, and Deuteronomy 21 verses 21 and 23. So we start to see some of these things in there. So Yeshua says, so you've heard it said, don't swear falsely, but he says, but I tell you, don't swear at all. What he's saying here is you don't have to say you're going to make an oath to let somebody know you mean what you say. Just mean what you say. Just carry through on it. If someone says something, let them know that they can trust you without you having to make an oath or a grand gesture to make it believable. Right? It says, don't swear at all, not by heaven, for it is the throne of God, or by the earth, for it is the footstool of his feet, or by Jerusalem, as the city of the great king. Don't swear by your head, for you cannot make a single hair white or black. Yeshua is telling us what? See the next verse. Let your yes be yes, and your no be no. Anything more than this is just from the evil one. Which, by the way, guys, we also read in James 5:12, where he's quoting the words of Yeshua here. So we start off in the book of Numbers, chapter 30, verses 1 and 2, Moshe is speaking to the princes or the leaders of the tribes of Israel, saying, this is what Adonai has commanded. Whenever a man makes a vow to Adonai or swears an oath to obligate himself by a pledge, he is not to violate his word, but do everything coming out of his mouth. There's also the idea of like business contracts and just different agreements, different things. If you make an agreement, if you say it, if you do it, then you do it. And he doesn't say, oh, you have to say this or do this way. No, he just says, whatever you agree to, whatever comes out of your mouth, whatever you say, that's what you do. All right. The other interesting thing to note is he's speaking to the heads of the tribes. Well, wouldn't this be information for all Israel? I mean, shouldn't all Israel be held to this standard? The answer is yes. But a lot of times, as we see through the Torah, we see that Yahweh spoke to Moshe, and then we see that Yahweh spoke to Moshe and says, tell Aaron, or Yahweh spoke to Moshe, tell Aaron and his sons, or Yahweh spoke to Moshe and said, speak to Israel. So again, different levels for different things. So why would he be here talking to the leaders? Because, guys, the leaders were taught first. Okay, it's not a matter of this did not apply to the rest of Israel. It was taught to the leaders, the heads of the tribes, and then afterward, it was the responsibility of those who were trained to teach the people. See that? This was part of the way that Israel was set up. There were things where Moshe addressed the entire nation, but then there were things where Moshe brought into the heads of the tribes, brought into the elders, brought into the leaders, and it was their place to go and teach the people these things. Malachi 2, 4-7 says, then you will know that I have sent this command to you to be my covenant with Levi, says Adonai Tzavaot. My covenant was with him for life and shalom, and I gave them to him for reverence, so he revered me, and he was awestruck by my name. Instruction of truth was in his mouth, and justice was not found on his lips. In shalom and uprightness he walked with me, and he turned many from iniquity. For a Kohen's lips should guard knowledge, and Torah must be sought from his mouth, for he is the messenger of Adonai Tzavaot. See that? Even we're talking here, the priesthood, they were to teach the people of Israel the Torah from Yahweh. So this was part of their task, not just to serve in the tabernacle or serve in the temple, not just to work with the offerings, but to teach the people the things that Yahweh had instructed. We see another reference to this in Leviticus 10, right after the death of Nadav and Abihu, Aaron's sons who brought strange fire before the Lord. We read in verse 8, it says, Adonai spoke to Aaron. This is one of the few times you see here where Yahweh speaks directly to Aaron. Okay, and what does he say? Well, first off, verse 9, he says, do not drink wine or fermented drink, neither you nor your sons with you, when you go into the tent of meeting, so that you do not die. This is to be a statute forever throughout your generations. So what did this have to do with anything? This is why people speculate that Nadav and Abihu were probably drunk when they went in and did something that was outside of their responsibilities. They took on the responsibilities of someone else, of Aaron's responsibilities. They encroached on something that was not their place to do so. They did something that Yahweh said not to do. So again, the idea is when you go into the service, when you go into the temple, when you're working in these things, have a clear mind, right? So going on, you're to make a distinction between the holy and the common, and between the unclean and the clean, and you are to teach Bnei Israel all the statutes which Adonai had spoken to them through Moshe. So again, Aaron is to make distinctions between the holy and the common and unclean and clean, and teach them. Not just to know for his own benefit, not just to know for his own knowledge, but to teach the people of Israel the differences between clean and holy and common, and how that involves their everyday life, and how that involves their acts of worship. All right? And so there was a structure that's given here. Again, we see pictures of, we're all part of the body, but we all have different parts. We all have different roles. We all have different functions. We even see that in Exodus 18, when Yitro was talking to Moshe, and all the people were coming to hear what Yahweh was saying in regards to the problems they were having with each other. They were having disputes and arguments, and they needed some resolution. And Yitro told Moshe, you're not going to go anywhere if this is the way it's going to be. Because, by the time these people come to you and they go back to the end of the line, they're just going to get back in line because there's another problem. Okay, so you need to establish leaders over tens, 50s, hundreds, and thousands. But before you do that, you need to teach the people what Yahweh is saying, and then discern from these people that you are teaching who should be leaders over tens, 50s, and hundreds, and thousands. And they should have these qualifications, and this is the type of person they should be. And again, just going in and just showing there was structure that's given there, not just so that I'm not saying so Moshe could be on a power trip. No, so that Moshe could teach these people could teach the other people. And so now we can move together instead of one person trying to do it all. Okay, so the idea is learning to work together and being taught what Yahweh is saying so we can all move according to his kingdom, and we can all be part of the body. We can all function in our own roles so that the body's not tripping over each other, falling over everything that we encounter. All right. We're learning to work together here. Exodus 34:30. So when Aaron and all Bnei Israel saw Moses, the skin of his face shone and raised, so they were afraid to come near. Remember, Moshe went up on the mountain. When he came down, he was shining. Moshe called out to them, and look at this. You ever notice this in verse 31? Aaron and all the rulers of the congregation returned to him. Moses spoke to them. Afterward, all Bnei Israel came near, and he gave them all the mitzvot that Adonai had spoken to him in Mount Sinai. So again, when Moshe came down and his face was shining, he called out to Aaron and the leaders, and they went to Moshe. He taught the leaders, gave instructions to them. After that, all the sons of Israel came near, and they were given the words of Yahweh. So again, it was given an instruction to those who were the leaders in the assembly first. Then they helped to give that to the entirety of the people. Leviticus 17:1 and 2 says, Adonai spoke to Moshe, saying, speak to Aaron and to his sons and to all Bnei Israel, and say to them, this is the word that Adonai has commanded. So again, we have a picture where Moshe is speaking, and it says, speak to Aaron and his sons and to all Israel. Now, do we know if this is different scenarios? Okay, Aaron, I'm going to tell you. Then let's get your sons. I'm going to tell your sons. And then we're going to get all Israel together. I'm going to tell all of them. Or is this Moshe telling Aaron, Aaron telling his sons, and Aaron's sons telling Israel? You know, we don't know exactly and specifically, but it is something to consider that how is everyone going to know every instance and everything? There needs to be people there to help give these instructions and help do that. Matter of fact, there are some who have an issue with Yitro giving instruction to Moshe, saying, see, this is instruction from a man. This is not what God said to do. But we do have instruction from Deuteronomy 16:18 that says, judges and officers you are to appoint within your gates. Shoftim v'shotrim is what's given there. Literally, Shoftim is a judge. Shotrim are officers to help carry these things through. Matter of fact, Shotrim were also considered the scribes because they would be familiar with the Torah, be familiar with what it was taught. And Shotrim is also the modern Hebrew word for like a police officer. So judges and officers were to be appointed according to your tribe so that they can judge the people with righteous judgment. So again, they were to give instructions to the people to show what righteousness is and to help the people to do that. The Torah was established so that they could all hear what the word was, but then it has to be implemented in your life, right? Not in a way of just saying, okay, there's only going to be a few people who know the word and everybody else just has to listen to what they say. No, that causes an abuse of power, doesn't it? No, this is a matter of they were all taught the word of Yahweh, and then they all taught the people. Okay, so this is all can be seen together, and all can be a way to benefit the body as a whole. 2 Peter 3:15-17 says, bear in mind that the patience of our Lord means salvation, just as our dearly loved brother Paul also wrote to you with the wisdom given to him. He speaks about these matters in all of his letters. Some things in them are hard to understand, which the ignorant and unstable twist as they do the rest of the scriptures to their own destruction. Since you already know all of this, loved ones, be on your guard so you are not led astray by the error of the lawless and lose your sure footing. So again, what Peter is saying here is that if you don't know what the word says, you're going to go off into lawlessness. Okay, he's saying that there were those who were hearing these things that Paul was saying, and because they did not have a foundation of the Torah, they were twisting what Paul was saying, not what he was saying, but what they were hearing, right? They were taking what Paul was saying and not understanding where he was coming from. Ever been in a situation like that? Where you walk into something and you don't know the history of what happened here? You're only walking into the middle of a situation, and then you make assumptions. See, this is what's happening with many people as they come to the word of Yahweh. They start reading, which we should, but then they don't have the foundation that was given through the Torah to learn to how interpret the things that they're reading in the New Testament, in the Brit Hadashah. So if we don't have the foundation to see these things, then we're going to misinterpret the things that we read, and we could also line ourselves up in error with the lawless, and as Peter says, lose our sure footing. So again, things we have to be careful of, which is again why we come back to our commitments and the things that we say, right? Because the things that you say, they are a reflection of the one that you serve. Right? People will judge the God you serve by your actions. It's wrong, but that's what they do. So this is why Yahweh says we are accountable for what we say, and we must do what we say. We also must not act in a way that profanes his name. When I say profane his name, I'm not talking about we mispronounce it. I'm talking about the word name. Shem also means character, not just a proper noun of what we call somebody. So if we are operating in the character of Yahweh, we are bringing glory to his name. If we are acting in a way that brings defilement or error or misjudgment or things like that, where people look down on Yahweh, then we are profaning his name. We are not working in a way that glorifies him. Matthew 5:37, Yeshua says what? Again, let your yes be yes and your no be no. Anything else is from the evil one. Don't string people along if you don't intend to do something, right? Don't let someone think something that isn't, right? Leviticus 19:12 says, you are not to swear by my name falsely and so profane the name of your God. I am Adonai. Again, what does it mean to swear by his name falsely? That means, yes, you'll do this and you don't, and so following through on that. Or you make an oath in court, do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God? I do. And then you don't, right? No, you don't do that. Ecclesiastes 5:1-6 gives us a good warning on that. It says, do not be quick with your mouth or hasty in your heart to utter a word in God's presence. For God is in heaven and you are on the earth. Therefore, let your words be few. As a dream comes with excessive burdens, so a fool's voice with too many words. When you swear a vow to God, don't delay in fulfilling it, for he takes no delight in fools. Pay what you vow. It is better for you not to vow than to vow and not pay. Don't let your mouth lead your flesh to sin, and don't say before the messenger, it was a mistake. Why should God be angry at your voice and destroy the work of your hands? Many dreams and many words are meaningless. Therefore, fear God. He's just saying, you don't have to make a vow, but if you do, follow through. You don't have to make the commitment. You don't have to say or do the things, but if you do, you follow through. Better to just do what you're supposed to, right? James 1:19-20 says, therefore, dear brothers, let every person be quick to listen, slow to speak, slow to get angry, for a person's anger does not accomplish God's righteousness. Again, have you ever committed yourself to something before you knew the facts? And then after you knew the facts, decided you didn't want to do it? And then you get angry when you have to go do it? Just thoughts, right? Just putting out there. James 5:12 says, above all, my friends, do not use an oath when you make a promise. Do not swear by heaven or by the earth or anything else. Say yes when you mean yes, no when you mean no, then you will not come under God's judgments. That sounds familiar? Yeah, that's what Yeshua said, right? So keep in mind, all these things we just covered here. Israel was just instructed that whatever they promise, they do it. Whatever they say, they do it. Now we get into the situation where there's a battle with Midian, and Gad and Reuben go to Moshe after this, and they say, hey, Moshe, we have a lot of cattle. You know this, right? We have a lot of cattle. And the land that we're in right now, I mean, we haven't crossed over into the land we're supposed to go to, right? But the land we're in right now looks pretty good for cattle. Why don't we just stay here? Wow. See, so what's going on here? Now, Moshe accuses them of doing the same thing their fathers did. What do? They dishearten the people. So Moshe is accusing them, why are you not willing to go into the land, into the promise Yahweh is saying for you? They're like, no, that's not what we're doing. Right? They're not saying that they're not going to go into the land. They're saying that they want this land. Okay, so what's really happening here? What's going on? So now they commit themselves to the fight. They commit themselves to the battle, but then say, when that's done and everyone has their portion, we want to come back to this land. So let's take a look at that. Numbers 32, 16 and 19. So then they came there and said, we will build sheepfolds for our livestock and cities for our little ones. Notice what's going on here. Notice the order here. They said, we're going to build sheepfolds for our livestock, cities for our little ones. Then we will go out into the battle with you. Verse 17, we will take up arms ready to go before the people of Israel until we have brought them into their place, and our little ones shall live in the cities because of the inhabitants of the land. And we will not return to our homes until each of the people of Israel has gained his inheritance. For we will not inherit with them on the other side of the Jordan and beyond, because our inheritance has come to us on this side of the Jordan to the east. So Moshe attempts to change their perspective here, okay? They mention multiple times the people of Israel. We'll do this for the people of Israel. And it's because the people of Israel, right? Moshe 6 times refers them back to Yahweh as their focus, not just their brothers. In other words, you're not doing your brothers a favor by what you're asking. Okay? You're not doing your brothers a favor. You are doing as Yahweh ordered. You are doing as Yahweh commanded you to do. You're not doing a favor for anybody. You're doing what you're supposed to do. Okay, so again, the focus that they were given here, like, oh, we'll go before our brothers and we'll do this for our brothers. No, Moshe is saying you're doing this for Yahweh. This is what Yahweh has said. You're being obedient. Okay, you're not doing anybody any favors here. Then he does something else that's different here. So chapter 32, verse 20. So Moshe said to them, if you will do this, if you will take up arms to go before Yahweh for the war, and every armed man of you will pass over the Jordan before Yahweh until he has driven out his enemies from before him, and the land is subdued before Yahweh, then after that you shall return and be free of obligation to Yahweh and to Israel, and this land will be a possession before Yahweh. But if you will not do so, behold, you have sinned against Yahweh, and be sure your sin will find you out. Then verse 24, build cities for your little ones and the folds for your sheep, and do what you have promised. So notice the order has changed. Now the order is now their families, their livestock, and keep your word. Right? Whereas before they were like, oh, we'll do this for our families, and we'll build places for our livestock. We'll do this for our families, and then we'll go out to battle. Right? No, Moshe is telling them, do this for your families, for your livestock, and you better keep your word. Okay. So again, he's kind of changing the order a little bit, changing their focus on where it was. Numbers 32:29. So Moshe says, if the children of Gad and the children of Reuben will pass with you over Jordan, every man armed to battle before Yahweh, and the land will be subdued before you, then you will give them the land of Gilead for a possession. So there's to go before them as armed men. Now this is interesting as well. The word for armed men is chalutzim. Chalutzim. These are men who will go in to fight. They were considered warriors, pioneers. They helped come to settle the land. They gave up everything else right here on this side to go and help their brothers conquer the land. These were pioneers going before, or even what you might say forerunners. These are people who lead the charge. They lead into the battle. So guys, consider that whatever you have in your life, there are those who went before you to help pay the price so you could have that. Whether it be something in the natural, physically, whether it be your freedom, there are those who laid their lives down so you could have freedom, um, whether it be spiritually. There are those who paid prices for you spiritually so that you could have what you have. Even down to some of the books that you may read. There are those who laid their lives down to get that information to you, right? So again, there are those that are forerunners that go before you to fight the battle so that when you go to battle, you don't have to deal with that hardship. Okay, so that you could have what you have. In this context, we could say that Yeshua is our greatest forerunner that we have, and that's testified of in Hebrews chapter 6. It's Yeshua Hechalutz, Yeshua, he is the forerunner. Hebrews 6:13-20 says, when God made his promise to Abraham, since he could swear by no one greater, he swore by himself, saying, surely I will bless you, surely I will multiply you. And so after waiting patiently, Abraham reached the promise. For people swear by someone greater, and the oath as confirmation is an end to all their disputing. Again, the idea of swearing or making an oath, it's like, well, if you don't believe me, I swear by, whatever. This is again addressing what Yeshua said. You shouldn't have to do that. Should just be, people trust what you say. Verse 17, in the same way, God determining to point out more clearly to heirs of the promise the unchanging nature of his purpose, guaranteed it with an oath. Who does Yahweh tell people, okay, so you don't really believe this? He swore by himself. There was none greater. Verse 18, so by two unchangeable things in which it is impossible for God to lie, we who have fled for refuge might have strong encouragement to take hold of the hope set before us. We have this hope as an anchor of the soul, both firm and steady, hope that enters the inner place behind the curtain. Yeshua has entered there as a forerunner on our behalf, having become Kohen Gadol forever, according to the order of Melchizedek. So again, Yeshua is the forerunner who went before us, who made a way for us to be able to go into the presence of the Father. We trust that because the word that he said, we believe him, right? So it teaches us some principles here that there are times when you lay down your life for the greater need of the community. This is what Gad and Reuben, they told Moshe, we want to stay here, let our family stay over here. We will go ahead in the battle, but we want to come back here. They weren't going to have a stake in the land where they were going, but they had to lay down their life and their families here now to go in there and to do that. Okay. Philippians 2, 3, and 4 says, do nothing out of rivalry or vanity, but in humility regard each other better than yourselves. Look out for each other's interests and not just your own. That's what he's teaching us, that there are times we need to lay our life down, and there are times we need to help each other out. And if you make a commitment to do that, follow through. Okay. If you make a commitment to Yahweh, you follow through. If you make a commitment to your brothers, follow through. You do it. Okay. Romans 12, 10 and 11 says, love each other devotedly and with brotherly love, and set examples for each other in showing respect. Don't be lazy when hard work is needed, but serve the Lord with spiritual fervor. And that is a matter of laying our life down. That's our commitment to covenant, guys. When we come before Yahweh and we repent and we say, I'm yours, that's another issue of keeping your word. You follow through on your covenant. You follow through on your commitment. Okay. And that's what we learn through the Torah. We learn to walk with him in his ways that he gave to us to show us a life of blessing and to show us how he desires for us to live. All of that together is just a good life that he wants for us. All right. So learning to walk with him and walk in his ways as we walk in the kingdom in blessing and life with one another. All right. Well, that's what I have for you today, guys. I pray that's been a blessing to you, encouraging you, challenging you a little bit as well. It's what we're supposed to do. And if this has been a blessing to you, then please share it. Whatever avenue you watch or you listen, help share these and help get them out there. It's blessed you. It's going to bless somebody else too, right? So help get them out there. And if this has been a blessing to you, then please consider making a donation to help us to continue making this content and putting it out there. Okay. We can only do that because you help us do that. So if this has encouraged you, help us get it out there to encourage others. All right. So until next time, be blessed, be a blessing, and shalom.
Thank you for watching Jesus in the Torah. If you would like, subscribe, and share these teachings with your friends. For more resources, please visit HFF.church and visit our campuses in Oklahoma City and Dallas on Saturdays. Remember, everything points to Jesus.